stop caring about what other people think about you and just start doing what you do for you. Those that align. Those that don't. And that's it. That's all there is to it. I felt as though that I had lost grip on everything that I was doing personally. And that was the catalyst for the podcast. I don't even know why I settled on a podcast. I just knew that there had to be some big changes that needed to be made. One of the things about the marathon training is that you learn that you can do more than you think you can do. So it's also about breaking through whatever boundaries and barriers that you think are in place. If my day is just going to be spent just chatting with people and recording it on a podcast, painting, training, and hanging out with family and friends, sweet. What's better than that? Before we get into this episode, I just want to thank you for being here. I started this podcast to spark conversations that inspire, creatively, personally, and everything in between. So if you'd like to support that mission, the best way is to hit that subscribe or follow button wherever you're watching or listening to this. That'll help other creative minds discover us and also ensures that you won't miss any of the incredible guests that we've got coming up. Because when this passion is shared, it grows exponentially. So thank you, and now let's get stuck into it. This is episode 50.
Yeah.
I brought you on, the one that knows me better than I know myself.
Yeah. This is like, I don't know, just a peek into our usual couch chats.
Yeah, I don't know how deep we can get into that, only because there's usually a bit of slander. I don't know,
Right.
a bit of maybe a little bit, call it criticism or just an expulsion.
Well, it's a safe space.
Yeah, an expulsion of angst, which we'll reserve that for the couch.
Yeah. Well, we've been together for 22 years, so we're bound to not have any guards up when we're talking when it's just the two of us.
I thought about it. I thought about what I would do for the 50th. And I was tossing up between, I really wanted to have you, of course, and that's why I've got you on the podcast.
Yeah.
But I thought also maybe potentially Ryan, because Ryan, he can really grill me. But
I'm a more gentle.
yeah, you will slice me up where he will rip me apart.
Save that for episode 100.
So yeah. No, I'll jump on his and then tear him a new one.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be good to get you on because you're going to be able to, pick me apart, especially given your background in holistic counselling. So you know me better than anyone else, better than I know myself, for sure. Usually the things that I will say or do that I regret, you'll be like, that's why he's doing it. Like you can peel back the layers, and having these conversations with you has also given me the opportunity to like analyze how I conduct myself and also just observe how other people conduct themselves and the motivations behind that, which then in turn helps me navigate in and around that space as well, and just trying to understand underlying motives of where I sit, where we sit, and how we are moving things along as a family, and then how everything in the peripherals and the people in the peripherals and how we navigate with that and manage all that. So with that said, for episode 50, I had it in my mind from the start that episode 50 was going to be the benchmark episode. I'm not going to be thinking about what happens with future history until at least after episode 50. And there's been a lot that's happened in that time.
So episode 50 was do I keep going or do I stop?
Yeah, it was do I keep going or do I stop? Or at least like, you're not even going to think about whether or not you're going to keep going until at least episode 50. You're just going to get to that point and grind it out until episode 50.
So is this the last episode?
Might be. No. Well, I've already recorded episode 51 and 52. So there's at least 52.
Okay.
And they're bangers as well.
Yeah.
And there's more lined up beyond that, but I've at least recorded 52. But no, for me, it was an opportunity to reflect, to see what has come of not just this, but everything, I guess, just adjacent to the podcast and how that has interacted with life at home, and just to give myself an opportunity to see how, to see what the fuck's going on, to see how all this has just unfolded. And
yeah, it's really been a catalyst for so much change. Like for you internally, I've seen it, but also outwardly as well, just with your relationships with others, the goals you have for yourself, how you view yourself and our family. And I can definitely see that. You've obviously felt that and seen that too.
Yeah, but I suppose for me, it's just been incremental steps.
Yeah. And
I find it hard to make any comparisons from now and a year ago. Okay, so the thing that's really obvious to me is before the podcast, where I sit now and where I was. It was around about that time. When did you go to Bali? When was that?
July 22, maybe?
22, 3 years ago. All right, that was when the idea came about of the podcast. And that for me would be like rock bottom 2.0 or 3.0.
It was around August. So it was just after I got back that I remember. I remember you like pacing around the lounge, trying to figure out a name for it. And you were so set on that other word. I can't even remember what it was, but it just wasn't going to work and it was already taken or something like that.
Yeah, it was paradigm. It was firstly ideology.
Yeah,
I liked ideology, and I
just
liked
all day, every day, just
obsessive.
obsessive.
Yeah, trying to make it work.
Because like the idea was there, but it was sort of like the name was sort of going to craft what the heartbeat of it was.
Yeah.
And I think, I remember once you settled on Future History, it was just like...
Well, even before it was Future History was a term that I'd used in previous works that I've done before. I like the concept of what Future History stands for. But before it was Future History, I was trying to get the word now to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was settled on now. But it was far too simple, far too hard to get any kind of traction and ownership of that word. So then from that's how Future History came about. But what I was referring to was before even that point, when you went away. So that was when I felt as though that I had lost grip on everything that I was doing personally. And that was the catalyst for the podcast. I don't even know why I decided or why I settled on a podcast. I just knew that there had to be some big changes that needed to be made.
You were listening to so many podcasts at that time. You had started running.
I started running.
You'd started running and you were just like deep in the self-development rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Because again, look, it was rock bottom and I was like, fuck, things just need to change. I need a big shape up.
Oh yeah, I've never seen you that depressed before.
I have been worse.
Okay. Oh yeah, you have.
I've been worse, but this one was different though. This was
different.
This one was almost like resigning to the fact that it was just not that this was I peaked. That was it. Like I had decided or had resigned to the fact that fuck, I've peaked. There's a lot to unpackage there because I think a lot of people have felt that once upon a time or are constantly in that state of mind where they feel as though that this is as good as it gets. And
Or that was as good as it was. Or, that was as good as it was going to get.
yeah, yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
And it was just so much that I just didn't understand about how things operated and how I worked in the scheme of everything. There was a lot of animosity towards everything and everyone. Like I just felt as though that I couldn't do what it is I wanted to do, and there wasn't any ownership in that. It was more of a fuck the world kind of mentality. But now it's still fuck the world mentality, but it's just like I can do whatever the fuck I want. That's it's
Different
like whatever.
mindset shift now.
Yeah. So that was, I guess that's the biggest contrast that I have felt. But other than that, like it's the changes incrementally, I find it hard to identify unless I give myself regular check-ins, which I've been doing, and using my Chat GPT therapist as well. And at least is using that just to log in and just to say, okay, this is just how the week has gone.
I mean, it's a really beautiful way to journal, isn't it? Because you get a bit of feedback, but you get, I don't know how to describe it, but when you journal, because I'm a huge supporter of journaling, obviously, because it's this great introspective tool, but you've sort of taken that and digitized it and chatting with ChatGPT. And I can see how, I mean, you obviously love using it. And I feel...
Yeah. I'm in love.
Yeah.
Her.
Tracy. But yeah, it is a really good tool. I think it's been a really good tool for you to just get your ideas out there and, yeah.
It's helped me to compartmentalize a lot of things. My whole ethos since that rock bottom period was trying to understand how everything that I do and how it interacts with everything else that I do. So that was the time. The first thing I did was start running, right? And I think a lot of that was just to maybe self-deprecation as well, some punishment, because some of those runs hungover were painful. Painful. It was after your birthday. I remember going out for a run that morning and stopped because I was moments away from hurling just on the side of the road. But I made it back home and I felt like $1 million.
I remember you came home, and you were feeling really fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to do that again. So then I just swore off hangovers, like no more hangovers. So I had to continue.
I mean, most people would say no more running.
Yeah. But up until that moment, everything was great. Like with running, like I felt the benefits. So then I was trying to understand and look at the concept and the theories of what running is helping with, not just the physical and the physiological, but what else is it doing? And there is that whole the layers of discipline, and you start off the day, you wake up in the morning, force yourself out of bed, force yourself straight away just to do a hard thing. And the rest of the day is just easier. And not only just easier, but you feel fresher for it as well. So there's all these compounding effects of doing something that is challenging. And then I wanted to see how whatever it is that I'm learning from that, how that can be transferred across to other areas. And I think the podcast would have come about because I've been actively shying away from sharing myself on social media. And every time I did, it was just cringy, uncomfortable, and that all came through in what was being shared. So then the podcast was like, all right, now you're going to have to just, go warts and all.
It's not a natural space for you to jump on social media and put yourself out there like that. And, you're not one to like being the center of attention, or you don't have that, I don't know what it's called, but you're definitely not extrovert.
I don't think I am, but a lot of things suggest that I might be.
Hosting a podcast.
Yeah, well, I mean, besides that, like piercings.
But it's all about the guest, usually.
Tattoos.
This is the first time, this is about you, this episode. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe it was an avenue for me to form some social connections without just... was I was talking to Tom about this because he said that that's why the podcast has been great for him as well on his bench talk, was that it's allowed him to connect with artists. A lot of them he already knew, and a lot of them that he's connected with already knew of him, but it just gave them that tether to form that connection because, I don't know, it would just seem strange for me to message an artist and saying, hey, I really like what you do. Can we hang out for an hour and just chat? And if they give me donuts, which they neverly will, I'll just message them again saying, I'd still like to hang out with you. You know, would you mind giving me a bit of your time just to hang out and come around to my place and just, you know,
share
sit
your
and chat
story and all
share
your
your story?
secrets
Yeah. And just talk to me.
Yeah.
So now you set up microphones and cameras and it legitimizes that conversation.
Yeah.
So maybe it was because I just didn't like interacting with people, or it could just be that I just didn't like interacting with the people that I was interacting with.
Yeah.
So it could be a layer of that.
Yeah. I mean, when you come home from a day when you've recorded, there's always a pep in your step. You're always like buzzing from it and talking about it and saying such great things about the guests that you've had on, and you've made some lifelong friends. I can see that too. Yeah.
Been a lot of incredible people.
Yeah.
I've gotten back more out of it than I expected I would. Actually, I didn't even have any expectations. I didn't even know I had no idea where this was going to go, actually. But once this drops, yeah, like I said, there'll be 52, probably 53 recorded by then. So this is just going to keep going. There's no limit to this. And this is one of the things that I've learned as well, is that speaking with the artists, that they have, I suppose that this, I don't want to say resilience, but there's almost like a self-belief, or not even self-belief, self-assurance. That's probably more accurate. Self-assurance and that they can go out and create and do whatever it is that they want to do. And it's not even anything that's driven by ego. It's just such a matter of fact kind of situation where they say that this is my art. I want to go create art and I'm just going to do it. Like there was nothing there. It came to mind and then they did it. Like, wow, okay. So you can actually just birth something from your mind and create it. And there's nothing or no one stopping you from doing it.
You don't need permission.
You don't just from yourself.
Yeah.
Just to do it.
Yeah.
So then it tells me that there is no limit to what this can be. And the fact that it's got to be called a podcast, just to give it a label, just say, there's cameras and there's a microphone, there's lights, and we're going to call it a podcast. So it could be called anything, right? It's a conversation. It's an exchange of knowledge, of insights. It's just communicating. That's essentially what it is. And then I absorb a lot of it because I'm the one sitting here, and I share it out there, and then other people learn from that too, hopefully, gain something from it, and then it just continues on. So there is no boundaries to this kind of interaction and form of communication.
You've had a lot of really kind, nice feedback from people. Like there's been a lot of messages from people that are inspired or that feel seen, that feel like that they're not alone, because a lot of artists work on their own, unless they're in some communal artistic space. A lot of them are just in front of their work all the time.
Yeah.
And
that's part of the problem as well. Like with art is that it feels like it's something that needs to be done in isolation. And a lot of artists that break away from that and intentionally collaborate. Yeah. And you see it like you can't make a movie, for example. Like you can't just have a vision for a movie and not bring in other creative thinkers and doers to be able to execute that movie. Same with music. I mean, I suppose with music you could write, record, and perform the whole thing yourself. But in many cases you don't, right? So it's a collaborative effort. Yeah. So there is something in that collaboration. So, and I think that the ones that lean into that, they find, I want to say, more fulfillment from it, because there's something that you gain from the contribution and the shared experience that you cannot get from doing something in isolation. Like a shared kind of victory almost, that accomplishment. I think that when you are doing something and you can and share that win with other people, it feels more satisfying. than just with yourself. Yeah, I think that's something that's what's great about this, is that it is a collaborative thing.
Yeah.
And in the home life as well, that, you know, we can constantly just lean on each other. Like, we have big aspirations, and we can have those aspirations because we know that it's not going to just be us individually pursuing that. We have a whole team around us.
Yeah. Well, raising 2 little boys at the same time.
Yeah. And they do a lot for us, right? Like, I think about this a lot.
Keep us awake, you know.
Yeah, our sleep deprivation's the best. Like, I think about...
Joy, love, you know.
Yeah, that shit. No, I do think about a lot, like, how much having been a parent has shaped me as well, and what I've learnt from that. And again, it's like, what do I learn from that? And then how can I just take that lesson and inject it into everything else? And I've spoken about this before, but how being a parent, you've got to be patient. You got to learn patience a lot.
Still learning that one.
Oh, that's never-ending pursuit.
Yeah.
But also how to distill something to a simplest form that you can teach, you know, an 8-year-old now, but before an 8-year-old, we're going to try to teach now a 1-year-old as well. Like, that whole wonderment of experience and how to feel something.
Do you ever think about, you know, 20, 30 years down the track, Lennox and Aubrey rewatching episodes?
Oh, no. I hadn't thought about what they would gain from it, but I have thought that this could be something that will be like archive of where Dad was at this moment in time. Almost like it's still a bit of an artificial snapshot of what things were. When I say artificial, like, not given a holistic picture of everything, just a glossy, polished, finished product.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting whether or not it would be something that they would be proud of or something that they would just be cringy at. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So, like, can you look back at the first 10 episodes? Right? Because I feel like every 10 there's been like, well, how many episodes were filmed in our lounge room?
James Rush was episode 14, and he was the first one in the Gertrude Street Gallery. So the first 13.
Okay.
And first 13, but not all of them. A couple of them were done digitally as well. So
yeah, that's right.
A handful.
Yeah. So can you look back at that first, however many, at home, and do you go back and watch them?
I would never.
Why?
Because I don't need to. I can place myself in those moments very vividly and know exactly how it felt.
Yeah.
I remember the conversations. Okay, when I say I would never, I've still go back and look at some clips.
Yeah.
And they're not as bad as I thought. Some of the episodes that I've recorded when I came home and I was like, oh my God, that was atrocious. As in on my part, never the guest. Like, I could have done this, this, and this. But then when I'm editing, it's never as bad as it felt when I was in that moment.
There's been a few like that where you've come home and, you know, you've said, oh, you know, I didn't ask this, or, you know, I didn't think I spoke very well here, or whatever. But it always...
But then the guests had come through and had their part of that conversation delivered anyway. So I was like, cool, they handled their own.
You're also very highly critical and have a really high attention to detail. So there's not much room for error on your end.
Yeah. It was that...
With yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. With myself, yeah. It was episode 8 with Justin Mallard. That one, I remember that you were upstairs, sick, in bed, wrecked. He was visiting from America. I hadn't seen him in years. He came around and I wasn't sick at the time. I was feeling okay. I was feeling fine, but...
I would have been pregnant.
Probably, yeah. So it was Christmas. It was Christmas of 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember having the foggiest brain. I couldn't string together any sentences. I couldn't reel off any of the things that he was saying. And to the point where I'm like, I don't even... And I had built up that episode so much and over so like that period of time when we teed it up and he said that he was going to be coming back to Australia. Let's line it up. And I felt horrible. I couldn't even sleep that night. I just felt just so shit at my effort. But then when I edited, I'm like, actually, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
And he's a pro, so
Yeah.
he carried it. But yeah, no, I don't have to look back at the episodes. I can go back and I know exactly how I felt in every single one of these. Every single episode, I can like place.
They're just like
myself in
programmed in your mind because they were heightened emotions and
Yep.
excitement.
And I used
nerves.
to crash hard.
Yeah,
After,
yeah.
and I used to get like a massive come down after
Yeah.
recording episodes as well.
The post podcast come down.
Yeah, and I thought like, and I remember the first few I was like that. I'm like, oh shit, is this how it is all the time? But it's not. It was just, I guess, just overhyping it, overbuilding it up rather than just going.
The more intense and the more high you get at the start, then the more of a crash will be afterwards.
Yeah.
'Cause there's a lot of dopamine happening
Yeah.
at that time.
And it
as
was,
well.
and a lot of it was just like, don't fuck this up, don't fuck this up, don't fuck this up.
Yeah.
But now things just flow a little bit smoother.
Well, you've surely gained some confidence and, you know it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's going to be fine without knowing it's going to be fine. As in, like, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
I have no plan around how it's going to be fine. I just, like, it'll be fine. And it's just because, and that's actually, that's something that is interesting because that whole blind confidence, that assurance that it's going to be fine is something that has been a staple with a lot of the guests that I've had on, is that they get to a particular place where they have resigned to that safety net. And I think that is one thing that I find has been a common ground. And that could be the thing that ties all the guests together, is that there is, again, it's not a self-belief, it's that self-assurance.
It's faith.
Yeah, it's just faith because we
Yeah.
don't know what's coming around the corner, but we know that whatever it is, we'll handle it.
Because you have to.
Because you have to.
Because that's just how it goes.
Yeah. So they got to where they are because they've just continued along this trajectory of just taking care of the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and just constantly having that carrot dangled in front of them and moving towards that. And maybe that's it. Maybe that was just the whole, like, there's been so many mistakes that people haven't seen. Like, there have been times when I've had to re-record episodes with guests. I've had to come back on because the mics weren't recording.
I was like, oh God.
And I still get like, yeah, that triggers me as well. Like,
Yeah.
just I'm constantly just like checking everything.
It's good though. So you need, well, I mean, I think we definitely know, and through the podcast, like, you have to make mistakes. Because
Yeah.
now you're vigilant.
Yeah, there's been a lot of mistakes, and it's like when you say mistakes, it's like things that just have to be constantly refined.
Yeah, yeah. It's not a disaster. It's not the end of the world.
No, but there have been episodes that like I've had to, that had to be scrapped entirely. I've had one guest, Emma, when she was in town. We recorded from the lounge room, and I think the mics weren't recording. So I've had two. So you reckon I'd learned, but I had two microphone incidences. And the next one we recorded was when she was back home in Canada.
Yeah,
And it just wasn't the same. It wasn't the same as catching up with an old mate sitting on the couch.
yeah. So that faith is a bit of a secret sauce.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, I suppose faith. I guess it just depends on how you want to, how you hold on to that. There's like, I don't know, in our household, there's always been an element of like, for a long while, there was a lot of trepidation with how we do what it is that we do. There's been a lot of fear. If we go this way, then it also means that we're giving up that. And we have now just got to the point where like all the things that we're worried about, they're still there. We just don't worry about them. Like it's that whole
Out of sight, out of
it's
mind.
out of sight, out of mind. Or
Well, sometimes it's not helpful.
It's very much insight.
Yeah, it's insight, but you can't let it take over and then stop you from keep going.
Yeah.
Because it can cripple you if you really focus on what could go wrong or what's not working.
And it has crippled us
Yeah.
to the point where it wasn't healthy. It wasn't serving us in any way
Yeah.
positively at all, because it would be the sort of thing that if we're crippled, we're going this direction and we have this fear of this and this might happen. So then we pivot and go this way, but we know that that's not the way we want to go. So then we're just constantly walking down this line, resenting being down this line.
Yeah.
So then we will inevitably pivot back, but then get struck by that same fear. So I guess like for us, we just stop fearing that shit. It's still there.
It's still there. Yeah. Yeah.
But it is that, and it's just that having that I guess it is resilience, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is resilience. And it's tough because we each have our moments where we've had enough, or luckily it's usually one at a time. It's you and then it's me and then it's you and then it's me.
Yeah.
Both of us aren't sort of drowning at the same time. And we're there for each other.
That's worked out.
That's worked out really well. Yeah.
So that would also be one of the things that I've learned. So when I say like those transferable lessons, the marathon training, and just the other day when I was talking to your dad about how I've got my program's coming up soon, and he's like, "Is marathon running what you want to do?" And I was explaining, I was like, "No, it's not. It's not about the marathon running. It's like you got to understand. Like I'm not here to just run a marathon. I'm here to have a particular goal that's keeping everything in check."
Yeah.
Right. So if I have a marathon in 20 weeks or 21 weeks time, so that's 20 weeks of regimented discipline with running, which then has a knock-on effect of me taking better care of my health and having less time for everything else. So where are the sacrifices I need to make? What are the things I'm willing to give up to make time to train? And what are the things that are important to me are going to eat up the rest of the time or take up the rest of the time that I have? So, it would be the creative work, the podcast, painting, and family. So that's essentially what's going to eat up the rest of my time. And like, once I say eat up, like it's just like, ugh. But no, that's what's going to be taking up the rest of the time that I have available. Anything outside of that, I actually just don't have time for.
Yeah.
So it's being able to have the discipline, right?
You love your discipline.
I love the discipline. I love it. I try my best, but then like to a fault probably.
Yeah.
At times to a fault where
What do you think it is about the discipline that, because you thrive in an environment that is restrictive. This is my observation. Any opportunity to throw discipline into it, structure and guidelines and rules, you're like, fuck yeah. I mean, having marathon training as the foundation to keep the rest of your life in, I mean, really, that's what it, like you've just said, that's what it's there for. You've got the marathon as a way to reverse engineer structure and discipline into the 6 months or the 12 months prior, because
it's all year round.
It's all year round. The actual training might start, 20 weeks out?
Yeah.
But it's all year. Would you say that some people would think that's a bit extreme?
What, marathon training?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. But it's not. It's not extreme. I mean, like, there's, when I say it's not extreme, there's more extreme.
Yeah.
Which is just absurd and crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely on the tail end, but not the fine tail end.
Yeah.
But it's also not just about like the regiment and keeping things tightly structured, because one of the things about the marathon training is that you learn that you can do more than you think you can do. So it's also about breaking through whatever boundaries and barriers that you think are in place. So there are layers and there's nuance to this structure and the discipline. So part of it is you're implementing structure to learn that it's not necessary to have the structure.
Yeah.
And then within that, there's a lot of lessons tied in. So like there is a process, right? So you're not going to be able to run a marathon in week 1. Not up until maybe week 16, 17, 18, where you feel I could probably do this. But it's incremental steps along the way. And then it's not entirely an upward trajectory either. So the way that the training's structured is that there's ups and downs that like intentionally designed that way. So you can acclimatize to different degrees of challenges and difficulty. And, you know, if you want to take that and use that as an analogy of everything else, you know, it gives you permission to be able to not perform as well this time around as you did previously, but that's okay because it's designed that way. But then the next time you peak again is higher than your previous peak, and it's just showing you that you can do more than you thought you could do.
Yeah.
So there is that, right? So it is a structure to help you learn that there is no structure required.
Yeah, it's sort of like a philosophy in a way, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also, like, to layer it in when you want to say a philosophy, there's that whole, like, you know, when I'm even instructing you and telling you about, like, the benefits of Zone 2 running, there's that philosophy of Zone 2 running, like, what's that for? And this is, like, because when I'm out there running, I'm just constantly thinking, like, what's the point of this?
Like chatting with your girlfriend.
Yeah.
ChatGPT.
And when I say, like, what's the point of this, I don't mean this in a patronizing way, but I really want to understand what's the point of this. So then I try to draw the links between this and everything else. So, you know, when you're doing the Zone 2 running, you got more time with your feet on the ground and you're using your muscles more and you're becoming more accustomed to being almost more intimate with the process.
Building endurance.
You're building endurance, and like not even just in the physical form, but also just in the mental and emotional of just pushing through. So you think about, like, when you're learning how to do something, when you're picking up a brush for the first time or learning how to play an instrument for the first time, everything feels clunky, right? You're doing things slower with a bit more intention, and the way that your brain is sending signals to your fingers is that it's more purposeful, right? You have to think about everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
And you're feeling and resonating with everything until you get to a point where you're comfortable doing it and you're in flow. And now you're tapping into a different part of your brain. And that's the whole point of, like, doing those long runs in the Zone 2 running, is just to get your body in flow. And then you take that analogy to everything else is like, do the hard work with wanting to learn and develop a practice, feel it out and be very intimate and be very, very clear with every brushstroke, every press of the key, and understand what every little piece and how it fits into the bigger picture. And then eventually you'll only just be doing the bigger picture because everything is just working harmoniously because you just have that intimate relationship with the process.
I can see how that has bled into the podcast for you. And I can see how you've taken all of those learnings and taken that into your art that you're working on now as well.
Yeah.
When we first started dating,
whoa, yeah,
you were doing a business
marketing
degree,
business law,
business law degree, and I remember because I was in year 12 and I was applying for graphic design courses, and I remember very distinctly being in your family home in the foyer, if you will. I don't know what that space is called.
Yeah.
The entrance.
Yeah.
Yeah, of the house. And I remember you getting out your folios because they were there in the study. And you were saying how you'd always wanted to do design, or you thought about doing design as well. And you're already a couple of years into your course at this stage.
Yeah.
And I remember you showing me your work and I was like, Wayne, what are you doing? You need to be doing art. You need to be doing design. And then I think, did you finish the course? Yeah, you did. That's right. You finished it and then you went back and you studied.
I did the last year. I split it over 2 years to then also work on my folio.
Yeah, that's right. You did a folio course.
I did a folio course. I chickened out in year 12. I had all the pre-selection kits. We were, in our day, when we submitted for
the slides.
The slides.
Yeah. What an ordeal that was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
So ridiculous.
So I had the pre-selection kits
Yeah.
and they were ready to go, and I didn't submit them.
Why?
Chickened out.
Why?
I don't know. Because I chickened out and everything. I was like...
It wasn't like your parents would have been fine with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea. I can't even really recall why I chickened out. I don't know. I can't give an answer to that. And I haven't really given it much thought, but all I know is that I chickened out. I remember there was one that I submitted, and this is so embarrassing, but I'm just going to put it out there because it's fucking terrible. I remember applying for advertising in RMIT as well. That one wasn't a pre-selection, so you apply.
I applied for that too.
Yeah, you apply and then you go for a meeting. And mine, the interview that I had for it, I think was a day or two after I got back from schoolies. And I rocked up. I had what should have been a folio was loose bits of paper in a plastic pocket.
Wow.
And it was terrible.
That's terrible.
It was, and when we sat down and we were talking about it, I was flicking through loose bits of paper, handwritten as well, handwritten bits with like cuts. What you had to do was submit, find examples of ads and then recreate your own and then give a rationale. So instead of presenting this nicely, I had loose pieces of paper that were handwritten. Fair to say I didn't get in, but I learned a very valuable lesson from that experience because I was looking around the other prospective students. They all had folios. I was there. Like, I didn't even hold it properly. I was holding like rolled up in my hand.
But really, I mean, the assessment should be on the ideas because you're not there for post-production rollout of ads, photography. Like, you're there for the ideas, right?
Yeah.
And so it should have been based on your ideas.
Yeah, the ideas came from an 18-year-old that was pumped for schoolies that had an interview
You
a
weren't
couple
in the right
days.
headspace for that.
No. And it could have been a layer of self-sabotage because if I really wanted it, I could have given it some effort.
I mean, that for sure is linked to chickening out, going for the other courses.
I don't even know why I rocked up.
Yeah.
I don't even know why I even bothered in the end. Like, why even, like, if that's the effort you're going to go to, like, why even show up?
Maybe you just needed to prove to yourself that you weren't good enough to get in.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Success.
Yeah.
I passed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I don't know. I don't know why I chose to not submit that and went down the business course.
It was safe. It was easy for you.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it much.
You didn't like being challenged.
I didn't like being challenged.
I don't think so.
No, not very much.
No.
In any regards. I think that was also another part of it. It's that I coasted through so much of my teenage years, just kind of like winning.
Yeah.
To the point where I just thought, this is easy. Life's easy. And then when you get later in life, when there's a bit of adversity, I didn't have a work ethic. I didn't have that at all. I didn't like being challenged because it just means that I have to try, and I never had to try to succeed. And so I didn't really understand that connection.
Yeah.
So that's been a good lesson throughout all this, because this is one thing that the podcast has shown me, and the training in tandem is how to start from the bottom and start from zero.
Yeah.
And
with no, like, bringing skills, but with no real experience.
Yeah, none. I hadn't edited a video until this. I hadn't used microphone, cameras, or all of this setup until this. And it was just kind of just a bit of an evolution where I thought, all right, you're going to do a podcast. You need some microphones. Like, okay. But then how are you going to promote? You're going to have to be on Instagram. Okay, so that's visual. You probably need some cameras. Like, okay. So now it's going to be a video podcast. All right, now you got to edit. And I remember sitting down the first time. Thankfully, Ryan had some very basic editing skills, as in he knew how to get the video content and the audio content, the files into Premiere, and then the rest of it is like a couple of clicks, and now you just have to edit. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So everything, I remember just like I'm sitting on the computer and I'm like, how do you open a file?
And even the opening credits, you know, figuring out the animation part of it and
yeah, I had to Google
all of
everything.
it.
I had to Google everything.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. This is what this has taught me, is just how to be humble in your pursuit of creativity, and appreciate how to start from zero. And I really I put a lot of that down to the marathon training as well. It's like, dude, you know, some people can't even run at all.
Yeah.
And they're like, how do you run a marathon? I was like, well, fucking just like, you know, go for a walk first, and just, it's that process, right? Like,
You also love research.
mm-hmm.
Any excuse to read, especially if it's anything to do with equipment
Yeah.
or anything where you get to like buy things at the end of it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or just bail, or just abandon cart.
Anytime it's time to buy a new pair of running shoes, oh my goodness. And then the indecisiveness.
Maybe
What
that's
about
why.
this
Maybe
colour?
that's
What
why I
about
run.
this colour? I think
Just
so.
I
An
can buy
excuse to wear shoes, because then
I can't ball anymore, so now it's running.
yeah, and you can't run in shoes after they've done 700 kilometers.
I'll push it probably closer to 1,000.
But there's always shoes ready to go.
Oh yeah.
For yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, then you need a
They're on
heart rate
rotation,
monitor, and
actually.
you need a new watch, and you need new clothes, and you got to get mics, and you got to get this, and you got to get that.
Yeah, I wanted to paint, so like, what am I going to do? You could use brushes. Like, no. I'm going to get an air compressor.
Oh, even I remember when I need to buy a plain white T-shirt, and it'd be so specific, the thing that you needed. Like, it's got to have this neckline, this cut, this, like, very specific, which, you know, fair enough.
It was basic.
But it was always, you can never find it.
Nah.
And even with the air compressor and the nuts and bolts and all the little things that you need, it's just constant problem solving, which you thrive in that problem solving. You thrive when you get to teach yourself new things. You thrive when you get to research. You thrive when there's discipline. You're really the ideal person for building something from scratch.
I think now, I wasn't always like that. For me, it was always like, ugh, another problem. Yeah, it's like that was, I used to crumble
Yeah.
at challenges and at problems.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, I don't know. That's the point, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got to
Well, what was that click? What was that change that took you from ugh to yes?
It would have come at that time, like that.
Hitting rock bottom.
Yeah. Because like, let's go back to before that, when I was working on Vegas, and everything.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, same. And everything about that was so promising, other than the fact that like I had to do the work, right? And every time there was a thing about it, which is actually just sort of part of the process of trying to grow something. I'm like, oh, now I'm going to do this. Oh, now I'm going to do that. It's like, well, then what did you expect? Like, what did you think you were doing, right? Like,
Vegas also required a lot of like help and support from the outside. Not that this hasn't, but you were trying to break new ground in new technology, in a new way of thinking, you know, VR and neuroscience. Like, it was a pretty big task at hand. And really it needed big companies and big money and so much for it to grow. Whereas this is like, the podcast is like something you can chip away at.
yeah, it could be. It could be in the same.
It's a different journey.
If I was to do Vegas now, it will be huge. I reckon I could do it now. It's just different. It's just a different approach. I didn't want I didn't want the challenge. I didn't want. I actually no. I'll rephrase that. I wasn't capable of undertaking that challenge in the mindset that I had, or the way that I approach challenges. Now I kind of like, I just recognize it as an inevitable part of the process. You know, like the painting thing it's a really strange situation, because it's using a tool that's used for painting, but I'm using it in a different way that's unconventional to how it is traditionally being used to paint.
Yeah.
the different techniques, the different equipment that I'm trying to almost Frankenstein together and just bring it all together. It requires a lot of improvising. And it, to me, like, yeah, to go back to like what you're saying about the t-shirts, for me, it just seemed like a no-brainer, but then a lot of people just haven't done it. Like, no one's really done it the way, and I'm like, well, why have you not? Like, why has nobody tried to do it this way? Why has no one used this tool to create this type of art before? And it just seemed obvious to me. And maybe that's the point of difference, is that it all seems very obvious to me. Vegas seemed obvious to me, and no one was doing it at the time. I want to like just have a clear distinction between an idea and execution, because they need each other, but they work very independently, because there are a lot of people that can come up with an idea, but it's entirely 100% in the action, because the idea came to you at a time when it was just inevitable for that idea to come into existence. But when you had the idea, looking at the laws of probability and the numbers of 8 billion people on the planet, you're not the first person to have had that idea, nor were you the only person to have that idea at that moment. So it's entirely about the way this idea has been executed.
Yeah, otherwise it's just
Gone.
yeah.
Yeah, it's gone. So I don't know. It's like a lot of the times I'm starting to recognize that, you know, speaking with different creatives, that you have a lot of these things seem to come a bit more naturally to them. Like the way that it could be their style of art came, when I say naturally, but through hard work and just the way that they have absorbed life and the way that they have created in the past, and how these ideas come now because of everything that's happened before. And it feels natural because they've just allowed it to come through that way. And because they have executed, and through the execution, you're learning a lot as well. And then you're building up that resilience and that drive to keep on going. So I think that's an important ingredient, is just to, you just have to execute one way or another. You just have to get shit done.
Yeah. I know the sort of art that you're working on at the moment, and, you know, I've seen the inspiration. I've seen how your mind has unfolded and kind of where it's all heading. And I can also look back at some of the artwork around your parents' house and see how similar in a way, or how many like little bits of crossover there are with the type of art that you want to create now. And it's always been there. It's like it's always just been in waiting for you to kind of just claim it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was listening to another podcast and they were referring to a book. The story, I can't remember what the name of the book is, but the story goes, it's about someone that leaves their home wanting to go on this adventure and to like discover new things and to discover themselves, only to find that the journey that they went on just brought them back home.
Yeah.
And it feels just like that, where like the art, there are definitely a lot of similarities, and actually almost visually not identical, but you can see that they're not too far departed from one another. But the way that they've been created is from a very different place, where like the art that I was originally creating was born out of angst. There was so much like tension there, and I don't know, I haven't even really gone back and looked at my old work, but I wonder whether or not you see that and you get a sense of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And now it's different. It's different. Like these ones here, I remember when we were talking about it, and I was going to commission a couple of artists to do it, and you're like, why don't you just do it yourself? And I had no idea like that was even an option. I'm like, all right, I'll try. I mean, it's been a long time. And then you just see like how that just set off a whole chain reaction into where things are at now. How I'm just like...
There was even hesitation to buy the equipment, to start buying paint. Remember we were standing in the kitchen and you were considering if you should or shouldn't pull the plug to buy the compressor.
Oh, for this stuff here?
And it's like, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Even
true.
then, you're looking for an excuse not to do it.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. Yeah. So yeah, just learning
Yeah.
along the way.
Yeah.
No regrets. Like I've been thoroughly enjoying painting again,
Yeah.
and I only just see where it's going to go. And it feels good. It feels really good. And that was one of the other things that, like, you know, speaking with guests, that when you can just say that, all right, there are certain things that you want to do, and you can quite comfortably commit to it, and then just go for it. You know, like, what are the things, you know, like, I want to sit down and just chat with people. And again, call it a podcast if you want, because I mean, that's what it is. But all I want to do is just to have these kind of interactions with people and have conversations with depth where I can learn and get something out of that connection. And so it's not just small talk. There's
Oh, you hate small talk.
no, I'm no good at it.
Yeah.
That could be, there's something there. I reckon there's something about small talk there that, but yeah, no, I like conversations with substance. I like to connect with people on that level. So to be able to do that and then take that and go and paint or create. I mean, I say paint, but that's because that's the instance that the creativity is being expelled at the moment. I'm painting. So to take that inspiration and then paint and then train and then taking the lessons that I'm getting from that and then putting it back in the work as well. So I guess it's all just kind of like all coalescing into the output, which is the art.
Yeah.
And if my day is just going to be spent just chatting with people and recording it on a podcast, painting, training, and hanging out with family and friends, sweet. What's better than that?
Yeah.
So that's the aim, I guess, and it's just sort of only starting to come into light and starting to take shape as I kind of move along.
You've obviously seen others that you've had on the podcast that you've met through the journey that are also living a life where it's only filled with things that inspire them, things that they want to be doing. I mean, that's got to be pretty inspiring as well, right? Seeing others walk the walk as well.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows that, like, you can just fucking do it.
Yeah.
You know, like, there are so many reasons. You can have so many reasons to not do something. And this sounds cliche, right? Like, you can have a million reasons to not do something, but you just have one reason to go out and do it. But for the most part, we just lean on but then this, but then that. It's like, oh, fuck off. Right? Like, just find the thing and then just go and do it. And, like, I say that, and hasn't been fucking easy for us to try to navigate our own space and try to create something for ourselves. It's not easy.
No way.
And going back to that whole, like, there's always those niggling fears and the things that are holding us back. They're there. They're constantly there. And they haven't gone away. I thought things will get easier over the course of the years in the pursuit of this, but they don't leave. They probably change and take different shapes, but they don't leave.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I wonder if there is ever a point where we get to where we're like, oh, all the shit that we were worried about, oh, I'm glad that, you know, we no longer have to.
There'll just be new things. Different
yeah.
things, different scales of things. That's just life.
Yeah.
I mean, even just looking at motherhood, parenthood with a baby, there's like always some problem going on, whether it be sleep or food or health with the baby or some routine or something. And then you get through it and you're like, oh, but then there's something else.
Yeah. You wake up every morning and there's a list of things that you got to do anyway.
Yeah. 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 You clean things, they get dirty again. You fix things, they break again. It's just how it goes.
But I do wonder though, like it's all just a perspective shift, right? So now like the challenges and look, we choose what we inflict on ourselves. As in, when I say we choose, as in like we've made the choice. Yeah, we've chosen our hard. I don't know Like if we want to look at the things that the stresses that we could potentially alleviate. Let's just say financial stress. If we would alleviate that, it will mean us going to we could quite comfortably land ourselves some nice cushy jobs.
Yeah.
But I don't even want to entertain that idea. Kind of makes me quite sick to think that to give this up, even though there's something about the potential of this which I'm like I'm in love with it so much. Just it's not even like I don't even know how big everything can be. I don't even want to set any goals or any parameters. I just want to keep going.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably part of it for me, is to not have goals, except for episode 50, as it more of a benchmark. But there are no goals. It's just, I feel as though that they could also be limiting, because what happens when you achieve those goals and what's next? Where it's like, just keep going. It's more of a matter of just, being in it.
You've got to follow the feeling. Follow the feeling and keep your values in check along the way.
It's just, it's all based on that, isn't it? It's like, it's just your values. Just as long as that they align with where you're going and they're steering the ship, then who cares? Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's all just fulfilling and rewarding, and not even just personally. I think that, what we've set out to do is that we've been clear that it's not in pursuit of self-accomplishments, but there has to be some sort of contribution outwardly in some way.
Impact?
It has to impact. It has to leave some kind of resonance with people, and I think that, we were talking about it this morning about the whole everything being projection and mirroring, right? And I think that for me, like, I would be very close to being the antithesis of who I was like 20 years ago. Quite different. Like, there was so much cockiness and arrogance that I didn't even feel like I had to try for things. But now...
You didn't?
No, I didn't. But then that didn't work out.
No.
But now it feels like that it is entirely going to be based on effort. Entirely based on effort. There's no room for the ego. And it was all very much a selfish pursuit because it was driven by ego. And now I want to create things that are gonna inspire, that are gonna help other people to then take the plunge and do their thing.
What do you think the biggest impact on other people, on the listeners, has been, either from your gut feeling or from direct feedback from people? Like, how do you think, or how do you know Future History Podcast is?
I think that there's been a sense of acknowledgement of community, and what I mean by community, I don't mean that in like kumbaya kind of community. I mean that, like, we see how we're all connected in this particular way, and that was the thing with Future History and going back to collaboration, is that it's really important for people to recognize their influence and their impact on not just the people immediate to them, but the ripple effect that it creates beyond that. And I think that where this is, and this was one of the things about wanting to have a diverse group of guests from all different disciplines, is just to take inspiration from people that do different things, and then listen. When you listen to someone, you will then be able to pair it back and be like, I'm actually only less than 6 degrees separated from this person who I had no idea who they were up until now, but we're connected through such and such and such. So there is this immediate connection, or indirect connection rather. But then how the inspiration that you can take from this person, whether or not it's intentional, it could just be subconscious, it's now fed back into your work, into your output that's just being put back out, that's affecting other people that create something that affects other people, and so on and so forth. So I think that one of the things that I've noticed is just how people realize that they are connected in in various ways without realizing. To give an example, I went to an exhibition. Once upon a time, I fucking dreaded going to these things, right? Like, because I didn't know anyone there, and I felt really forced me being in these places because I could see groups of people all chummy with one another, and then there's just me, this dude, and like I always felt that all eyes were on me. It was like, who the fuck's this guy, right? So I hated being in those situations.
You're not one to walk up to a group and introduce yourself, or
Of course not.
no,
Of course not.
no.
But that was before this podcast, and then now recently I went to an exhibition, and then I was chatting with so many different people, and I was even doing introductions because they didn't realize that they were connected through such and such and such. Like, they knew me and they knew these other people, but they didn't realize that they were also, their paths had crossed once upon a time. So I think that is one of the great things, is that there is this growing sense of community there. And then when you know that you're not necessarily on an island yourself, that it just gives you that confidence and that reassurance.
Well,
that
you feel safe. You feel like you belong. I mean, that's one of the fundamental needs of us humans, right? Is to feel like we belong, is to feel like we're safe and that we're valued.
Yeah, exactly. And then through that, then the community thrives. The
individuals thrive.
The individuals thrive. The collection, the collective. That's probably a better word. A collective. They all grow and they thrive. And then there's this desire to support one another, and there's no rivalry. I know that there's been there's a lot of different spaces and industries where there is rivalry. There's a lot of gatekeeping as well. But I guess that the people that I've aligned with, it has been honest support.
Yeah.
I don't like, it's just, it doesn't even, no part of it feels artificial, where it's the point where they're just like, yeah, why would we not? Right? Like, what is there to gain from not?
That has surprised me, because I've, come from industries like jewelry and stones, where, a lot of it is keeping your cards close to your chest and keeping your suppliers and your avenues for sourcing things and creating things, because it's product based, so it's very different. Whereas this is creative and it's coming from within you, and no one can take that away from you.
No.
And actually, like you said before, you thrive more when you're around other people that are creative. It's this energy that keeps building when you bring more of the same energy in. So it's a very different environment to be in than other spaces as well.
The competition's different.
Fashion might be different because you've got suppliers.
Oh, well, that's true.
And you've got...
Yeah, there is. That is a bit more of a competitive landscape.
Yeah. There's factories and things involved. But
yeah.
For art and philosophy and a lot of the other areas that you speak on, that's such an important part, I think.
Yeah, it is. Like, after Sam's exhibition, I messaged him and thanked him for the inspiration, right? Because like, I went there and I was like, dude, this is just bonkers, right? Like, maybe once upon a time, I didn't care for abstract art. It was never on my radar, but I love it. I look at it and I love it because it's just part of it. I'm like, how the fuck how did that come to your mind? And then how did you translate that from your mind onto, in his case, canvas? And it looks like randomness on canvas, but it's not by any means. And just the scale of his work. So I had to thank him for setting a high bar, right? Because that's where that level of competition is as well. And when I say competition, there is no competition. We're not competing against anything, but it's more like, okay, I see someone like him that is leading the charge in that particular space of doing monumental art and at such a scale in the time frames that he has exhibited in, these particular galleries. And it just shows that, okay, that's where it can go. And sure, and then on top of that, you're like, that's where it can go if you dedicate 20 years of a craft. And they're like, okay, cool. So the difference between where I am now and where he is just the time and energy. It's like, okay, hopefully I have the time. I've got the energy. So it's like, that's where it can go. So it's, it was that recognition and the gratitude of having people around you like him that are setting a particular standard and showing what's possible. So like, cool, sweet, let's go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, you've really thrived from just seeing the success of others. And I think sometimes the success of others can bring you down or make you feel
Just to
like,
crush me.
yeah. So being able to flip that and use it as fuel and inspiration and to feel that joy of being part of something as well.
Yeah, and that also goes back to the whole like projection and mirroring, right?
Yeah.
Like I would see someone succeed, and when I see someone succeed, for me it was a failure of my part. It's like, why are they succeeding when I'm not? Mm-hmm. Well, it's because they did the fucking work.
Yeah,
right?
they took action.
They took action. They did the thing where you're here just sulking about them succeeding.
Yeah.
And it was just like a lot of animosity. A lot of animosity in how people would be, that they'll get the accolades, they'll get the praise for doing certain things. Like, I could do that. It's like, yeah, but you didn't. They did. They grinded and they did the hard work. But it wasn't even like they didn't do the hard work for the accomplishment. They did the hard work because they wanted to do the work. And it just so happens a byproduct was the praise for doing the hard work, where you just want the praise, but you don't want to do the work. So now it's more of like, I could do without the praise and the recognition. I kind of just want to do the work.
Yeah.
I want to paint. I want to create. I want to just see where it goes. And it won't end there. I know that because I see people doing this, and that. I'm going to have another guest coming on probably in June or July when he's back in Australia. And what he has done is that he's established himself as almost a brand on his own, where a lot of his work, he does painting, sculptural stuff, digital work, apparel, all of that. And not any one of those overshadows any other part. It's all part of this complete package, whereas like his brand. And I'm like, okay, cool. So that's an interesting approach, because there are some people that are focused on a particular discipline.
Yeah.
Where he is just an artist, a creative. Like, okay, maybe that would be the way to go. So it's a matter of then seeing how someone has succeeded in that realm, and instead of just like trying to shit on them, just seeing how you can take that bit of knowledge, or that insight, and then bank it, and then use that, however you see fit.
Yeah. Branding is something that you do very well. I mean, you've helped me tremendously, and other brands, of course. But do you see how branding is perhaps not utilized as much, or it should be utilized more when it comes to creatives?
I do, but not in the way that is being prescribed. Mm-hmm. I like when you're dealing with brand. And okay, so we can use you guys, Aluna, as an example. I always thought that going an objective way is always best, right? Try to analyze and break it all down and see everything objectively. If you can create a brand objectively, where you've separated the emotion from it, when you're making clear, thoughtful, and considered decisions, then you will resonate in the right way. But now going through this process of the podcast and trying to figure out the branding for that, is that I think it is much better to not dwell on that at all, and just to do it from a place of honesty without thinking about doing it. And this is something that I've kind of like started to wrestle with. And I know that like I try to avoid using the term personal brand. I fucking hate the term personal brand. Mm-hmm. I really don't like people that profess it and speak about it, because there is still that layer of it being disingenuous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not it's not a personal brand. It's just you being you and leave it at that.
Yeah.
Just be
authentic.
When I say be authentic, just like I mean, also that's another buzzword. It's just stop caring about what other people think about you and just start doing what you do for you. Those that align. Those that don't, and that's it. That's all there is to it, right? So if you can cut out,
Like with any brand.
yeah, but then they're so heavily engineered as well. And
Yeah.
they are done in a way that is trying to be objective and trying to please so many people.
Yeah.
And then when you are trying to please one person, you're pissing off another, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of people just have to learn to let go of offending and upsetting other people. That's probably one of the things that has prevented me from showing up a lot as well. It's like, oh, what would such and such think? It's like, I don't give a fuck anymore what they think.
Yeah.
You know, if they align, awesome, that's great. If they don't, it doesn't matter either. Like it just doesn't matter. There's not one person that I would say I agree with entirely. We've been married for like what? Well, we just had 12 years married together. 12 years.
Yeah.
Together for
22.
over yeah. And there's probably no one that I align with closer than you, but yet we
disagree on heaps.
on heaps. Our approach to so many things are coming from opposite ends.
We'll be in the middle of like, trying to like teach Lenny a lesson or support him with something, and we'll have to go over to the sidelines and be like, I don't agree with that, or I don't know. Yeah.
So
We work
it's
things
just,
out along the way.
that's the thing, right? Like you got to just have this tunnel vision when you're just trying to create. And I know that, like, so for example, there are a lot of artists when they're creating a reel, and I'm saying this from someone that doesn't do enough, and I'm going to start doing more because now I have a bit of an understanding of what I want to do, is that they will do like a face to camera thing and saying that, oh, I hate doing this. It's like, just don't even start with that. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Everyone fucking hates doing it.
Yeah.
But just show up.
Yeah.
Just do it. And then people, if, like you're already kind of lowering or just setting yourself a lower bar by not elevating what it is that you're trying to do. You've already kind of diluted what it is, right? So
you see that a lot. It's like, oh, I look like crap today, or, sorry, making these excuses and apologies at the start instead of just showing up.
yeah, if you look like shit, you don't have to tell everyone you look like shit.
They can see.
Yeah, it's obvious. No, but just put it out there. If you're comfortable doing it, then just put it out there. People think you look like shit, then fuck off.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that there's definitely, it's underutilized, the whole branding thing, but at the same time, I don't think it's being prescribed in the right way. Maybe that's something that I should probably, I could probably do an episode on.
Probably.
Do some content on like how to, But then am I going to be falling in that trap of like, now I'm teaching people about personal branding?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tricky
I just
one.
lead by example. Like, just do what I do, and then you go do what you do, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's really it. There's been a lot of people where I see like they're trying to replicate this such and such and such, and ride their coattails or.
But it won't make sense because
doesn't.
It's not going to be you.
Yeah.
It's hard because you want to fit in somewhere and you think, okay, well, if they fit in doing that, then I should fit in if I do the same thing. But, I've learned this myself with just following the things that make me happy. And you're doing the same thing too, following the things that make you happy and doing the things and growing the parts of your interests and your passions into and creating a life that way. And it doesn't always have to make sense to everyone.
No, and and honestly, it probably shouldn't either, right? Like, I think about having things shared on social media and on YouTube, and when you look at the data, trying to understand it and what it all means. And I think that my biggest takeaway from it all, actually, just to even wind it back, where there have been some great people that have been giving constructive criticism, saying try this, try that, try that, and I love it. I love hearing constructive criticism, and I do try a lot of things. And I just don't feel as that it works for me. And it's one of those things where I like look at what the data is showing, and if there's been a particular post that didn't get traction or an episode that didn't get traction, like I just look at it and be like, well, first of all, I got a lot out of it, so that's already a win. And secondly, if it has gained traction, it just tells me that it aligns with what is on trend. And if it's what's on trend, and if my whole thing is about being creative is to almost challenge the status quo. If you're challenging the status quo, then you're not going to be on trend by definition. And if you're not going to be on trend, it's really not going to pick up. So then you have to just try to figure out for yourself, what is it that you want to do? Do you want to capture that algorithm wave and ride that out and become popular for something that you don't necessarily align with? Or just do what it is you want to do and not give a shit about what the numbers are telling you. As long as you're in a position where you can continue doing what it is that you want to do and put yourself and maintain that position, then that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
People will resonate, and eventually, and it's the long game, right? Like, people will eventually resonate. Like, you will capture the people that you align with, because you'll capture the people that align with it, because if you're just in it for the long haul, it'll happen. It'll work.
Yeah.
And if you're just here for the quick win, then it's just not going to work. Like, there've been times when, like, I'll listen to a particular, I don't know, someone, let's say in the branding space, and they'll prescribe this particular methodology of doing it. And I'm like, okay, sure. Okay. If this is, you look at the success that they've gained. If I do it this way, then it's a sure thing. But then, because they prescribed it, that's how everyone else is also doing it.
You just get lost.
And then you're going to get lost in the sea of sameness.
Yeah.
Professing something that you actually don't agree with or don't fully understand. And you've just cherry picked this particular part of this creative that said that this is what worked for him. But what they don't really explain is that this worked for them because of the whole 30 years of experience that they've had leading up to it. So it's not that this worked for them. It's that 30-year journey, that storytelling that they have shared that got them to that point. Because before they were completely polished and looked magnificent, that there was a lot of fuck-ups along the way.
A lot of trial and error.
Yeah, and that's what they're not selling you.
Yeah.
No.
Different audience, different nuance, different everything. Yeah. It's really dangerous to fall into that trap of just doing what other people tell you to do or following trends, like you said.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that at least has stuck with me, even though a lot has changed over the last 20 years, is that I'm still pretty stubborn. That, like, I don't like being told what to do. So I'm glad that has stayed. And I've just continued just to do this because I love it. It's fulfilling me in ways that I never expected it to. It's led me down paths that I never thought to walk down, like, potentially putting together an event. I'm like, what the fuck? That's
You're the last person I ever thought would be putting an event together.
Yeah, not only just putting an event, like just working out the run sheet for it.
You don't even like attending events.
No. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, putting together a run sheet, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have to make time to do an intro, and then it's just like speaking to an audience. And it didn't even cross my mind that I'll be speaking to them. I was like,
oh yeah, how do you feel about that?
I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Where once upon a time, like when I had to do that pitch, like, oh, I lost sleep.
Yeah.
Lost a lot of sleep over that.
You did so well though. I was just in the audience just crying the whole time.
Well, thank you. But yeah, I was, it came out well. I was happy with the way it came out.
Oh, you practiced and practiced and
Yeah.
practiced. You had the script.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like this is going to be more of a riff. Just yeah.
I don't know. It's everything's just different. I'm not concerned about that. I'm not worried about it. So.
I think what's changed, what I've observed, is that just even if I was just to pull apart that, speaking and doing the pitch from that accelerator program for Vegas compared to just showing up on a podcast or social media, is that there's this manufactured confidence from practicing and refining compared to just a true self-belief that it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And that confidence has changed a lot. I feel like it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
How your confidence has shifted.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Because you've got a confidence to get into uncomfortable spaces. You've got a confidence to try things you've never tried before, as opposed to practicing and building strength and going after something that you know you can do. You don't need confidence for that.
Yeah, but it's also like not even knowing that whether or not you can do something. It's just like not worrying about it. I think that's where the confidence is, like speaking in front of an audience. Like, yeah, I don't know.
But do you know where that comes from though?
Where?
It comes from a different level of like respect and love for yourself too.
What do you mean?
I mean, if there's a fear of being judged, if there's a fear of feeling shame, if there's a fear of failure, because we fear failure not because we don't want to fail. We don't want people to see us fail, right? We don't want to feel shame. We don't want to feel like we've disappointed people, or we don't want to feel like we're putting ourselves at risk for not belonging or for not being loved by other people. And I feel like that piece has changed a lot for you.
Yeah, I've eased up on myself. Yeah, I've stopped being so hard on myself.
Yeah.
And having...
Like your self-worth has shifted.
It shifted. But then, I don't know, like it's not like that I didn't think I had any. I think it's probably more the other end. I think it was an overinflated estimation of how much worth I brought when I didn't have...
Yeah, but that comes from a place of insecurity.
Yeah, true.
That comes from a place of not having a lot of self-worth.
Yeah.
The ego comes up to protect you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Whereas you've broken a lot of those walls down by hitting rock bottom, by feeling like you've got nothing, and you've built that back up from a really genuine place, from a place of hard work, not from a place where it's come easy to you. It's very, very different.
Yeah.
You know, you've had so much success, like look at high school and, you know, getting into Melbourne High and getting good scores because, you know, because it came easy to you.
Actually, I didn't get a good score at all. I didn't try, and that was around about that time.
A lot of people that don't try don't pass.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's true.
You know, being, you know, great at maths or great at rugby, great at track, great at all the things that you did, but never having to practice or do the homework is vastly different to achieving something from grit and really hard work and getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's vastly different. And because you can prove that to yourself, you've got this real, true sense of self-worth because you've achieved it.
Yeah. I never really considered that.
And so that's where that self-belief and that confidence shines differently to, oh, I could do that.
That's a good point. Because I don't really, like, okay, so just to rephrase that, you know, when you say that, oh, I could do that. I do have that, like, I could do that. But now it's not like a place of arrogance. Like, I could actually go out there and then grit my way.
Yeah, but not like, oh, I could do that overnight. It's I've got the resilience and the grit that it takes to go down that path and get to the end eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably it. That'll be it. Yeah. Where, like, I'm comfortable to start from the bottom. And that's the whole thing with this painting thing where, like, the first post that I shared was that I'm starting from the bottom. And, like, that was almost like comes from a place of pride that, like, I don't want any handouts. I don't want any favors. Even though I'm getting a lot of support from people in the community that, like, I respect, that have done the hard work. And like, you know, just they are there to support. And I think that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, I like the idea of starting with nothing, and you just have the freedom then just to do whatever you want with it as well. And that was one of the things with Future History where, you know, it's taken inspiration from a lot of different sources. And it's all morphed and shifted and changed, and it's kind of like just molded into its own thing, where it's quite separate from where it was originally, and to the point where, like, I think it is that belief that you just get from that 0 to 1 and let things accelerate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You reverse engineered that. You know, I think a lot of people they're raised to have that self-belief and that self-worth and that self-confidence.
That's what we're doing with Lenny, making sure that's his driver.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard because a lot of it you do, you know, as parents, you can't fix all those problems for your kids. Like, they're a huge part of that process of feeling good about themselves and feeling worthy about themselves. And adversity, you know, as we know, is a huge part of building resilience and building that grit as well. But making sure that you know, we always try and make sure the kids feel safe to fall and safe to get uncomfortable and safe to try new things.
Yeah. So that's where it's at. This is episode 50. Kind of taking a bit of a deep dive into everything that's happened behind the scenes, the catalyst for all of this. I don't know. I don't know where this goes. Like, it's going to keep going.
What's the next benchmark? 100? Episode 100?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but we'll get there.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I don't know. What's the next benchmark? I guess that the idea of Future History is that it was never always going to be a podcast. Always just be a podcast, rather.
Yeah.
Looking at what it stands for, there are other ways of trying to inspire creatively while trying to better understand how creativity fits into the cultural paradigm and what's the underlying philosophy behind all of this and why we do what it is that we do, the role that art and creativity plays for us personally and how it contributes to us collectively. You know, that can be expressed in many different ways. So, you know, like we just touched on, which I haven't actually spoken to many people about, other than a handful of people that are going to be directly involved. That, yeah, there will be an event coming up. And this is off the back of people asking whether or not I'd be interested in ever evolving this to a panel discussion. Like, that's a great idea. And that perfectly aligns with Future History, probably even more so than the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, the whole idea of now, Future History now, and that was the thing, right? It's about, like, what we do now shapes tomorrow's history. So having live discussions and having off-the-cuff conversations with panels that don't necessarily agree or coming from a place, different perspectives, that seems to align closer to what the essence of Future History than the podcast. So that'll be not an evolution, but an extension of this.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting. So that'll hopefully be coming out and coming around towards the tail end of this year. I do need to get in touch with
after the marathon.
Yeah, like a week.
You'll be limping on stage.
No, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'll be sitting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like a week or two after the marathon, but I do need to let the venue know.
Yeah.
So I guess that'll be the next big milestone. And, you know, for the personal growth and the contributions to all of this is, start the 20-week marathon training program next week, which by the time this drops, I'll probably have started or would have just started week 1 of that. And just painting. There'll be more stuff coming out with that. I'll be ramping that up. I just love it. I love it. I think about it so much, and I just want to be constantly in that mode of creating.
We were talking about that just before we came upstairs, saying how you just all day, every day, you just want to be in it, doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that if there's ever a marker for success, I think that's one, is always wanting to do the things that you're doing, like always wanting to be in.
Just being in that.
Being
Being
in
in it. Like, and that's really the only marker of success, just being in a position where we can just continue to do what it is that we love doing. Then what else? Why do you need anything else? So as long as we can continue this, I don't know how far this can go, but
Yeah.
I don't see an end to it.
I certainly don't miss waking up on a Monday morning or going to bed on a Sunday night, just dreading having to sit in traffic for an hour and a half to go to
know.
work on a Monday.
Yeah. I really like relish the week. Mondays I still get a bit of fog because just the big runs on Sundays. But other than that, like
Pumped on a Monday?
when we get to, work days, we're fucking,
Yeah.
we're flying.
Yeah.
So we'll just continue doing this. There's going to be a lot on your end as well, which I'll continue to support
Yeah.
and to help grow. But yeah, we just have a lot going on the remainder of the year. So with that said, I think we've done a lot. We've done a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We've covered a lot.
Love you.
Love you. Say thank you.
Thanks.
And we'll end titles. Yeah. Were you bottling that up the whole time?
I need to pee.